Something is trying to kill you. And it's not a person. It's not your circumstances. It's not your past. It's the voice inside your own head telling you that you're not enough, that it's too late, that you were never meant for more. And if you don't deal with that voice today, it will bury you alive while you're still breathing. Stay with me. Because what I'm about to share with you is going to change the way you think, the way you see yourself, and the way you walk into every single day from this moment forward. Listen carefully. The most dangerous enemy you will ever face in your life does not live outside of you. It doesn't live in your neighborhood. It doesn't live in your workplace. It doesn't live in the people who doubted you or walked away from you. The most dangerous enemy you will ever face lives between your ears. And most people go their entire lives never dealing with it. Most people wake up every morning, get out of bed, and carry that enemy with them into everything they do. Into their relationships, into their careers, into their prayers, into their dreams, and then they wonder why nothing ever changes. The truth is, you cannot win in life with a losing mind. I need you to understand something that most motivational speeches will never tell you. Negative thinking is not just a bad habit. It is a spiritual weapon that has been positioned against your destiny. It is a systematic assault on your identity, your purpose, and your potential. And until you recognize it for what it truly is, you will keep fighting the wrong battle. You'll keep blaming the economy. You'll keep blaming your family. You'll keep blaming your past. And all while the real enemy sits quietly inside your mind, running your life from the shadows. Hear me clearly. Your thoughts are not just thoughts. They are seeds. And whatever you plant in the soil of your mind will eventually grow into the fruit of your reality. So if you've been planting fear, you've been harvesting failure. If you've been planting doubt, you've been harvesting delay. If you've been planting, I can't, I'm not ready. What if I fall? What will people think? You have been gardening your own destruction without even realizing it. And I know that sounds heavy, but I need you to feel the weight of it. Because some of you have been tolerating thoughts that are slowly stealing your life one day at a time. There comes a moment in every person's life when they have to make a decision. Not a decision about a job or a relationship or where to live. A decision about who they are going to be inside their own mind. A decision to either let the negative voice continue to run the show or to rise up with everything they have and say, "Not today. Not anymore. This ends now. That moment is right now. For you. Today." Let me tell you something about the nature of negative thinking, because I want you to understand this deeply. Negative thinking does not announce itself. It doesn't come knocking at your door wearing a sign around its neck. It is subtle. It is patient. It disguises itself as realism. It calls itself logic. It wraps itself in your own voice so you don't even recognize it as the enemy. You think it's just being practical. You think you're just preparing for the worst. You think you're just keeping it real. But the truth is, you've been rehearsing failure so long that your mind now accepts it as home. Most people don't even know their mind is set against them. They've normalized the negativity. They've made peace with limitation. They've gotten comfortable with small thinking and comfort. That quiet, seductive, dangerous comfort is the graveyard of greatness. I want to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with yourself right now. How many times have you had a dream, a vision, an idea, something that lit a fire inside of you, and within seconds, your own mind put it out? How many times did that voice say, "You're not smart enough, you don't have the connections, people like you don't make it, it's already been done. Who are you to think that big?" How many times did you agree with that voice? How many times did you bow down to it without even putting up a fight? The enemy didn't take your dream from you. You handed it over. And you handed it over quietly, in the private space of your own mind, in a moment nobody else witnessed. That's how negative thinking works. It robs you in the dark, silently, slowly, and it does it with your own permission. But I want you to hear this. The fact that you're still here, the fact that you're still watching, the fact that you haven't given up completely, that tells me something about you. It tells me there's still a fire in you that hasn't gone out. It may be small right now. It may be barely a flicker, but it's there. And my job today is to pour fuel on that flame until it becomes a fire that nothing in this world can put out. Romans 12:2 says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." The renewing of your mind, not the renewing of your circumstances, not the renewing of your relationships, not the renewing of your bank account, the mind. Because God Himself understood that transformation doesn't begin in the external world. It begins in the internal world. It begins in the place where your thoughts live and breathe and multiply. You change the mind and the life changes. You renew the mind and the destiny shifts. Everything starts there. So how do you kill negative thinking? How do you actually do it? Because I know some of you have been told to think positive and you tried it and it didn't work. You said the affirmations. You wrote in the journal. You put the sticky notes on the mirror. And then life hit you, and within 10 minutes the negativity was back. I understand that. And I want to go deeper than surface-level solutions with you today, because you deserve more than a feel-good speech. You deserve real transformation. The first truth you must accept is this: you cannot kill what you refuse to identify. You have to name the enemy before you can defeat the enemy. So I'm asking you right now to be brutally honest with yourself. What are the specific negative thoughts that keep returning to your mind? Not the general ones, the specific ones. The ones that show up at 2 in the morning. The ones that whisper when you're about to make a move. The ones that sound like your father's voice, or your ex's voice, or the voice of every person who ever told you you were too much or not enough. Those thoughts have names, and until you name them, they have power over you. Most people live in reaction to their thoughts. A thought comes and they follow it. A negative thought arrives and they believe it, absorb it, and act from it. But understand this: a thought is not a command. A thought is not a verdict. A thought is not the voice of God. A thought is information that must be evaluated, challenged, and if necessary, rejected. You are not obligated to believe everything that passes through your mind. Hear me clearly. You are not your thoughts. You are the thinker behind the thoughts. You have the power to observe a thought, examine it, and decide whether it deserves space in your mind. And when a thought is rooted in fear and insecurity, in the lies of your past, you have the right, and in fact the responsibility, to throw it out, violently if necessary. This is what the Apostle Paul meant in 2 Corinthians 10:5 when he said, "We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ." Take captive every thought. Not some thoughts, not the obviously bad ones, every thought. Because Paul understood that the battleground of your destiny is your mind, and if you don't control that battleground, something else will. Now I need to talk to you about something that nobody talks about in these kinds of speeches. I need to talk to you about the relationship between negative thinking and identity. Because here is the deepest truth I can give you today. Most negative thinking is not about your circumstances. It's about who you believe you are. And who you believe you are was shaped long before you became an adult. Someone told you something. Or maybe no one told you anything and that silence spoke louder than any words could. Maybe you watched someone you loved give up on their dreams, and somewhere in your subconscious, you decided that was just how life goes. Maybe you failed once, and instead of seeing it as a lesson, you turned it into a label. You stopped saying, "I failed at that thing," and started saying, "I am a failure." Do you understand the difference? Because that difference is everything. The moment you move from a description of an event to a definition of yourself, negative thinking stopped being an occasional visitor and became a permanent resident, and some of you have been housing this resident for years. You've fed it, you've protected it, you've built your entire self-concept around it. And now the thought of letting it go feels dangerous, because if you're not the person who struggles, who suffers, who can't quite make it, then who are you? That is the question that negative thinking most fears. Because the moment you truly, deeply, spiritually answer that question, the game is over. You are not your pain. You are not your past. You are not your failures, your fears, your mistakes, or your misfortunes. You are a living, breathing, God-crafted being with a purpose so specific and so powerful that the enemy has been working overtime to keep you trapped in your own head because he knows what you're capable of and he's terrified of it. Let me say that again. The reason the attack on your mind is so intense is because of what's inside of you. You don't wage a war against something that has no value. You don't fight to suppress something that poses no threat. The ferocity of the mental battle you've been experiencing is a direct reflection of the magnitude of what God placed inside of you. Your pain is not proof that you're finished. Your pain is proof that you're important. And I know that's hard to receive when you're in the middle of it. I know when the darkness is loud and the doubt is heavy and the negative thoughts are coming fast, it's almost impossible to see yourself as someone with great purpose. I know that. I'm not speaking to you from a place of theory. I'm speaking to you from a place of understanding. Because every person who has ever done anything meaningful in this world went through a season where their own mind was their biggest obstacle. Every one of them. David went through it in the cave, hiding from Saul, surrounded by outcasts, wondering if God had forgotten him. Moses went through it standing at the burning bush, convinced he was the wrong person for the assignment. Paul went through it in prison, in chains, with every natural reason to give up. And yet, every single one of them made a decision to war against the voice of limitation and walk toward the voice of purpose. And that decision is available to you, right now, today. The truth is, killing negative thinking is not a one-time event. It is a daily discipline. It is a practice. It is a fight that you show up for every single morning before you even get out of bed, because the thoughts will come. They will always come, and your power is not in stopping them from coming. Your power is in choosing what you do when they arrive. This is where most people misunderstand the process. They think spiritual growth or mental transformation means the negative thoughts stop coming, but that's not how it works. The thoughts will still come. Fear will still knock on the door of your mind. Doubt will still show up uninvited. The difference between someone who is transformed and someone who is stuck is not that one person never experiences negative thoughts. The difference is that the transformed person has developed the discipline, the habit, the spiritual muscle to not let those thoughts determine the direction of their life. You build that muscle the same way you build any muscle, through resistance, through repetition, through showing up even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. And every single time you choose faith over fear, every single time you choose action over paralysis, every single time you push back against the lie and choose to believe the truth, you get stronger. The muscle grows, the faith deepens. And over time, the voice of limitation gets quieter and quieter while the voice of purpose gets louder and louder. Understand this. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is the price of freedom. Every person you've ever admired, every person who's ever lived a life that you would want to live, paid for that life with the currency of discipline. They disciplined their thoughts. They disciplined their time. They disciplined their habits. They disciplined their tongue. They said no to what felt good in the moment so they could say yes to what was great in the long run. And I need you to stop romanticizing the result without respecting the process that produced it, because here is what nobody tells you. The life you want is on the other side of the person you're refusing to become. It's right there. But to get there, you have to kill the version of you that entertains negativity. You have to kill the version of you that rehearses worst-case scenarios. You have to kill the version of you that watches other people win and tells yourself that's just not for you. You have to kill the version of you that has grown comfortable being uncomfortable. You have to kill it, not wound it, not negotiate with it. Kill it, because that version of you is the only thing standing between where you are and where God is trying to take you. Let me talk to you about fear for a moment, because fear is the primary fuel of negative thinking. Everything negative in your mind eventually traces back to some form of fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of being seen, fear of trying and not making it, fear of what people will say, fear of being wrong, fear of success even, because sometimes we're more afraid of what we'd have to become if we actually won. Fear is deceptive because it dresses itself up as wisdom. It says, I'm just being cautious. It says, I'm just being realistic. It says, I'm just trying to protect you. But fear has never protected anyone from greatness. Fear has only ever protected people from trying, and a life where you never try is not a safe life. It is a wasted one. 2 Timothy 1:7 says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." Write that down somewhere. It will find you on the hard days. God did not give you fear. That means when fear shows up in your mind, it did not come from your Creator. It came from your enemy. And you have every spiritual, mental, and emotional right to refuse it entry. Power, love, a sound mind. Those three things are your birthright, not anxiety, not paralysis, not the constant dread that something is going to go wrong. You were designed for power. You were built for love. You were created with the capacity for a mind so clear and so focused and so aligned with truth that nothing can shake it. That's who you are. And negative thinking is simply the lie that tries to convince you otherwise. Most people spend their lives in reaction. Someone says something and they react. Something happens and they react. A negative thought comes and they react. A negative thought comes and they react. They live life on the receiving end, shaped by whatever shows up, blown about by every wind of circumstance. But you were not designed to be reactive. You were designed to be intentional. You were designed to be the kind of person who decides what they think, who decides what they believe, who decides what narrative they carry about themselves and the world around them. That's not arrogance, that's stewardship. It's taking responsibility for the most powerful asset you have, your mind, and refusing to let it be squandered by fear, by doubt, by the opinions of people who don't even have the courage to pursue their own dreams. There comes a moment when you stop asking permission from your own mind, when you stop waiting for the fear to go away before you move, when you stop waiting to feel confident before you try, when you stop waiting for certainty before you commit, because confidence is not what comes before action. Confidence is what comes from action. You don't think your way into courage. You act your way into it. You move while you're afraid. You speak while your voice is shaking. You try while the outcome is uncertain. And you discover on the other side of that action a version of yourself that you didn't know existed. I want to speak to someone right now who has been waiting for the right time, waiting to be more prepared, waiting for the signs to align, waiting for someone to believe in you before you believe in yourself. I need you to hear this. The waiting is over. Not because everything is perfect. Not because the fear is gone. Not because you have everything figured out. The waiting is over because every moment you stay still is a moment of your purpose going unrealized, and you don't have time to waste on the altar of readiness you'll never feel. God's timing and your comfort are two different things. He has been calling you forward while you've been asking for more time. He has been opening doors while you've been building walls inside your mind. He has been preparing a path while you've been paralyzed at the beginning of it. And at this point, you have to decide to walk. Listen carefully, because this might be the most important thing I say to you today. The version of you that exists on the other side of your negative thinking is not just a better you. It is the real you. The fearful, doubtful, small-thinking version of you is not the authentic version. That's the wounded version. That's the version created by pain and disappointment and the lies you absorbed before you were old enough to know they were lies. The real you, the one God designed, the one woven together with intention and destiny and purpose. That version doesn't shrink. That version doesn't apologize for taking up space. That version walks into rooms knowing they belong. That version faces opposition with faith instead of fear. That version looks at a mountain and says, not how do I get around it, but who told the mountain it could stand in my way? That version of you is real. It exists. And it is waiting on the other side of a decision you need to make right now. The decision to stop feeding the negative thoughts and start starving them. The decision to stop rehearsing what could go wrong and start envisioning what could go right. The decision to stop listening to the voice of limitation and start speaking the language of faith. The decision to stop looking at your past as evidence of your ceiling and start looking at it as the very thing that has been forging you for your breakthrough. Philippians 4:8 says, "Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, think about such things." That is not a suggestion, that is a command. A divine instruction for where to point the camera of your mind. Because the camera of your mind is always on, it's always filming, and whatever you point it at is what will fill the screen of your reality. So point it at what's true. Point it at what's possible. Point it at what God has promised. Point it at evidence of your resilience, not evidence of your regret. I know life has been hard. I know you've been through things that changed you. I know there are places in your story that are painful to revisit, chapters you wish you could tear out, moments that left marks you still carry. I know, and I'm not asking you to pretend that didn't happen. I'm not asking you to fake a smile and act like the wounds aren't real. They are real. The pain is real. But pain is not processed, becomes poison. And poison in your mind will eventually seep into every area of your life if you don't deal with it. So grieve what needs to be grieved. Acknowledge what happened. Sit with the truth of it. And then make a decision. Make a decision that you are not going to build your identity around the worst thing that ever happened to you. Make a decision that your story doesn't end in the chapter of your suffering. Make a decision that the pain you've carried was not the destination, it was the curriculum. It was preparing you for a level of empathy, a depth of wisdom, a strength of character that people who never went through anything simply do not have. Your struggle has given you something that no classroom can teach. And now the question is, are you going to let the enemy use it against you, or are you going to let God use it for you? Most people who changed the world were forged in furnaces. Most people never survive. David was a shepherd nobody noticed before he was a king. Everyone celebrated. Joseph was a prisoner before he was a prime minister. Ruth was a widow in a foreign land before she became part of the lineage of Christ. The furnace was not the punishment. The furnace was the preparation. And you have been in the furnace, and you have survived, and that means you are ready for what comes next. But you cannot step into what comes next while you're still dragging yesterday's negativity into today. You cannot build a new chapter while your hands are still holding the old one with a death grip. You have to let go. Not because what happened didn't matter. Not because you weren't hurt, but because your future is more important than your feelings about your past. And the God who allowed the furnace is the same God who has already prepared the palace, and he is waiting on you to get your mind ready to receive it. Hear me clearly, because I want to leave this with you in a way you will never forget. Negative thinking is a choice. I know it doesn't feel like a choice. I know it feels automatic. I know it feels like something that happens to you rather than something you do. But the moment you receive the truth that you have authority over your thoughts, in that moment, not thinking negatively became a choice. And every time you choose it from here forward, you are not just changing your mindset. You are changing your life. You are changing your relationships. You are changing your family's legacy. You are changing the story that will be told about you long after you're gone. Because here's what nobody tells you. Your children are watching how you think. The people around you are shaped by the energy of your mind. When you walk into a room with a mind full of fear and doubt and negativity, you carry that atmosphere with you and deposit it everywhere you go. But when you walk in with a mind renewed, with a mind aligned with faith, with a mind set on purpose and possibility, you become a carrier of something entirely different. You become the person in the room that shifts the atmosphere simply by being present. You become the person whose children grow up watching a parent who chose faith over fear, and they learn that it is possible. And they carry that into their children, and their children carry it into the world. That is the power of killing your negative thinking. It doesn't just change you, it changes everything that flows from you. And I know what some of you are thinking right now. You're thinking, this sounds good. But I've tried before. I've done the work before. I've gone through the seasons of motivation and then fallen back. What makes this time different? And I want to answer that directly because you deserve a direct answer. What makes this time different is not the speech What makes this time different is the decision. A real decision. Not a feeling, not an emotional moment that will fade by tomorrow morning, but a genuine, settled, I am done living beneath my potential decision. Feelings come and go. Motivation rises and falls. But a decision, a deep, bone-level decision, that is what changes a trajectory. That is what Elijah meant when he said to the people on Mount Carmel, "How long will you waver between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him." Stop wavering. Pick a side. Decide today who you are going to be. And then get up tomorrow and be it, and the day after that, and the day after that, until it becomes who you are. Consistency is the quiet secret that everybody overlooks in the pursuit of transformation. People want the big dramatic moment. They want the lightning bolt. They want the Damascus Road experience where everything changes in an instant. And sometimes God works like that. But more often, transformation comes through the accumulation of small, daily, unglamorous choices to think differently, to speak differently, to respond differently, to get back up differently. Day after day after day, until one morning you wake up and realize the person you used to be, the fearful one, the doubtful one, the one who let negative thoughts run their life, that person is gone. And in their place is someone you barely recognize, but someone you love, someone you're proud of, someone who is finally, fully, unapologetically alive. That person is waiting for you. They have been waiting for a long time. And today is the day you go get them. Let me tell you what it's going to cost you. Because I will not stand here and pretend it's free. Killing your negative thinking is going to cost you the comfort of victim mentality. It's going to cost you the excuse of your past. It's going to cost you the habit of explaining why you can't. It's going to cost you the relationships built on shared misery. It's going to cost you the social media consumption that feeds your comparison and drains your confidence. It's going to cost you the hours of passive living when you should be in active pursuit. It is going to cost you something real. And you need to count that cost today and then decide that what you will gain is worth infinitely more than what you're giving up. Because what you will gain is your life. The actual, full, abundant, purposeful, God-designed life that has been on hold while your mind was being held hostage. What you will gain is peace. Not the peace that comes from absence of conflict, but the peace that Paul described as passing all understanding, the kind that guards your heart and mind even in the middle of the storm. What you will gain is clarity, the ability to see who you are, what you're called to, and what your next step is, without the fog of fear clouding every perspective. What you will gain is power. The intoxicating, invigorating, unstoppable power of a person who has taken full ownership of their mind and refuses to surrender it to anything less than truth. That is the trade. Your old mind for a new one. Your old story for a new one. Your old life for the one you are actually made for. Is it worth it? Look me in the eye and tell me it's not worth it. Understand this. The enemy does not fight hard for territory he doesn't care about. The fact that your mind has been the battlefield for this long means your mind is exactly where the next breakthrough is hiding. And the moment you win this battle, the moment you take back your thought life with both hands and refuse to surrender it, everything changes. Every door that seemed closed, every dream that seemed impossible, every relationship that seemed broken beyond repair, every version of your future that fear told you was out of reach, it all shifts. Because the person standing at those doors has changed. And the doors don't open for the fearful version of you. They open for the free version of you. Become free. Today, you came to this video for a reason. I don't believe in coincidences. I believe in a God who orchestrates encounters, who positions truth in front of people at precisely the moment they need it most. And you are here today watching this because there is something inside of you that knows it's time. Knows it's time to stop the self-sabotage. Knows it's time to silence the voices of limitation. Knows it's time to stop playing small in a life that was designed for greatness. That knowing, that deep, quiet, persistent knowing is not an accident. That is the voice of God inside of you, calling you to the life He prepared for you before you were born. Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. A hope and a future, not a past, not a prison, a future, not a past, not a prison, a future. And it is still waiting for you. The plans have not been cancelled. The purpose has not been revoked. God has not given up on the vision He had for your life. But He needs your mind to be in alignment with His plans before He can fully release you into them. So this is your moment. This is your crossroads. This is the point in your story where the chapter shifts, where you stop being the person things happen to and start being the person who decides what happens. Where you stop being shaped by your thoughts and start shaping them. Where you stop surviving and start living. Where you stop merely existing inside your purpose and start walking boldly in it. I need you to do something. Right now, in the quiet of wherever you are, I need you to make a declaration. Not out loud if you can't, but in the deepest place inside of you, where only you and God can hear it. Say, I am done living beneath my potential. I am done letting fear make my decisions. I am done tolerating thoughts that have no right to live in my mind. Starting today, I take back my mind. Starting today, I choose faith over fear, truth over lies, purpose over pain, forward over backward. Starting today, I am who God says I am, and nothing, no voice, no memory, no person, no past, has the authority to tell me otherwise. That declaration is the beginning of your transformation. Not the end of the struggle, the beginning of the victory. Because transformation doesn't mean the fight stops. It means you stop losing it. Go after your dreams. Go after them with the intensity of someone who understands the time is not infinite, and that this life, this one precious, irreplaceable life, is not a rehearsal. Go after them with the faith of someone who has read the end of the book and knows that the God who started a good work in you is faithful to complete it. Go after them with the fire of someone who has just awakened from a sleep that almost stole everything. Wake up, get up, show up. Every single day, in spite of the fear, in spite of the doubt, in spite of the negative voices, show up as the person you were created to be. Kill the negative thinking. Bury it deep. And in that same soil, plant the seeds of a new mind, a new belief, a new identity. Water it with the word, guard it with discipline, protect it with boundaries, and watch what grows. Watch the life that emerges. Watch who you become when you finally fully commit to thinking like the person you were always meant to be. Your breakthrough is not behind you. It is not above you. It is not somewhere far away. It is on the other side of a renewed mind. And you have everything you need to get there. You've always had it. The only thing that was ever in the way was a lie. And today, the lie dies. Now go live the truth. You're still here. And I want you to know that matters. The fact that you didn't click away, the fact that something inside of you is still listening, still leaning in, still hungry for more, that is not a small thing. Most people quit at the surface level. Most people take a little inspiration, feel good for a moment, and then go right back to the same patterns, the same thoughts, the same life. But you're still here. And that tells me you're not looking for a feeling. You're looking for a change, a real one, a permanent one. And that is exactly what I intend to give you. So let's go deeper, because everything I've said so far was the foundation. Now I want to build the house. There's something I haven't talked about yet that is absolutely critical to understanding why negative thinking is so stubborn, why it keeps coming back no matter how many times you try to shake it, why you can have a powerful moment of clarity and motivation and then wake up 3 days later feeling like nothing changed. And it comes down to this one truth. You cannot consistently behave in a way that contradicts how you see yourself. Read that again slowly. You cannot consistently behave in a way that contradicts how you see yourself. This is why willpower alone never works long term. This is why discipline without identity is exhausting and unsustainable. This is why people make the same resolutions year after year and break them year after year. Because they are trying to change the behavior without changing the belief. They're trying to act like a new person while still seeing themselves as the old one. And the mind, which is incredibly loyal to whatever identity you've accepted as true, will always pull your behavior back into alignment with your self-image. Always. It is relentless about this. So if you see yourself as someone who struggles financially, you will unconsciously make decisions that keep you financially struggling, even when opportunity shows up. If you see yourself as someone who can't maintain healthy relationships, you will unconsciously create the conditions that destroy your relationships, even when love is right in front of you. If you see yourself as someone who never finishes what they start, you will find ways, creative, convincing, emotionally justified ways to abandon your goals before they're completed. Not because you're weak, not because you're a failure, but because you are incredibly consistent with who you believe you are. This is why the Bible places such extraordinary emphasis on the renewal of the mind. Not the improvement of behavior, the renewal of the mind. Because God, who designed you, understood the architecture of transformation better than any psychologist or self-help author who ever lived. He knew that lasting change always begins at the level of identity, at the level of belief, at the level of the deep interior narrative you carry about who you are and what you're worth and what's possible for your life. And most of that narrative was written by someone else. Let that land for a second. The story you believe about yourself, the one that tells you you're not enough, or you're too much, or you're unlovable, or you're incapable, or you're destined for mediocrity. Most of that story was written by other people. By parents who were themselves wounded and passed their wounds down without meaning to. By teachers who didn't see what was in you and made you feel invisible. By experiences of rejection and betrayal that you interpreted as permanent verdicts about your value. By a culture that told you beauty looks one way and success looks one way and significance looks one way, and if you don't fit that mold, you must not qualify. But here is the most important question you will ever ask yourself. Who gave those people the authority to write your story? Who gave your past the pen? Who decided that the words spoken over you in your most vulnerable seasons were the final word? Because I want to tell you with every ounce of conviction I have, they were not the final word. They were never the final word. The final word about who you are belongs to the one who made you, and he has already spoken it. And what he said sounds nothing like what the enemy has been whispering in your ear. He said, "You are fearfully and wonderfully made." He said you are chosen. He said you are called. He said you are more than a conqueror. He said that the same spirit that raised Christ from the dead lives inside of you. That is not poetry for Sunday morning. That is the foundational truth of your identity, and it is the truth you must build your entire self-concept upon, because every other foundation will eventually crack under the pressure of life. Now let me talk to you about something that is quietly destroying an entire generation, and it has everything to do with negative thinking. It is the addiction to comparison. And I call it an addiction deliberately because it operates exactly like one. It gives you a temporary hit of something, superiority if you're comparing down, or the familiar sting of inadequacy if you're comparing up. And then it leaves you emptier than before, and you go back for more, scrolling, watching, measuring, calculating where you are against where someone else appears to be. And the word I want you to catch is appears. Because you are comparing your interior life, all of your doubt, your fear, your struggle, your behind-the-scenes reality, to someone else's carefully curated exterior performance, and it is destroying you. Most people will never post their failures. Most people will never film their 3 a.m. breakdowns, their rejected applications, their seasons of absolute confusion and self-doubt. They'll post the graduation, not the years of almost quitting. They'll post the wedding, not the painful seasons of loneliness that preceded it. They'll post the business success, not the 4 businesses that collapsed before this one. And when you consume only the highlight reel, you begin to believe that everyone else has it figured out, and you are the only one still trying to find your footing. And that belief, that devastating, isolating, completely false belief, fuels negative thinking like nothing else. The truth is, everyone is fighting something. Everyone has a version of the voice you hear at 2 a.m. Everyone has rooms in their story they don't open to the public. The difference is not that some people don't struggle. The difference is that some people have decided not to let the struggle define their direction. They feel the fear and move anyway. They hear the doubt and pray through it anyway. They see the obstacles and take the next step anyway. And you can do the same, not because you're perfect, not because you're ready, not because everything is aligned, but because you are deciding right now, in this moment, that your potential is worth fighting for, even when your mind is the one you're fighting against. Let me talk to you about the power of your words, because this is where so many people are unknowingly poisoning their own minds every single day. What you say about yourself when no one else is listening is the most powerful force shaping your reality. More powerful than your education, more powerful than your circumstances, more powerful than your network. The words that live in your mouth about who you are and what you're capable of are seeds that go directly into the soil of your subconscious mind, and your subconscious mind does not evaluate whether those seeds are true. It simply grows whatever is planted. So when you say, "I'm so stupid," your subconscious says, "Noted. Let me arrange experiences that confirm that." When you say, "Nothing ever works out for me," your subconscious says, "Understood. Let me filter your perception so you only notice the evidence that supports that." When you say, "I'll never be able to do this," your subconscious says, "Your wish is my command." This is not mysticism. This is neuroscience. This is the way your brain is literally wired, and if you want to kill your negative thinking, you have to start by killing your negative speaking. Proverbs 18:21 says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue." Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Death and life. Not small things and big things, not mild inconveniences and modest improvements. Death and life. The stakes of what you say about yourself are that high. And most people are speaking death over themselves multiple times every single day without even realizing it. Casually, habitually, with a laugh even. "Oh, I'm terrible with money. I've always been the anxious one. I'm just not a disciplined person." Every one of those statements spoken with enough repetition becomes a prophecy that your mind and body conspire to fulfill. So what do? You speak differently, not fakely. Not with the kind of forced positivity that doesn't acknowledge reality, but with the intentional, faith-fueled language of someone who has decided to agree with God rather than agree with their limitations. When the thought comes, "I can't do this," you say, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." When the thought comes, "I'm not enough," you say, "I am complete in Him." When the thought comes, "I'm going to fail," you say, "I am equipped for every good work that God has prepared for me." You are not denying your feelings. You are refusing to let your feelings outrank your faith. And over time, the faith grows louder and the fear grows quieter, and the life begins to shift in the direction of what you've been consistently speaking. I want to speak to someone right now who is exhausted. Not just physically exhausted, though you may be that too, but spiritually, emotionally, mentally exhausted from carrying a mind full of weight that was never yours to carry in the first place, the weight of other people's opinions, the weight of past mistakes you've already been forgiven for, but haven't forgiven yourself for, the weight of expectations that were placed on you before you were old enough to choose your own path, the weight of a future you're afraid of and a past you can't escape and a present that feels like a trap. I see you. And I want to tell you something that I need you to receive, not just hear, but actually receive in the deepest place of your soul. You are not designed to carry that weight. Matthew 11:28, Jesus himself said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." That is an invitation. A direct, personal, urgent invitation from the one who made you to put down what is crushing you and to pick up what he has for you instead. His yoke is easy. His burden is light, not because the calling is small. The calling is enormous, but because you don't carry it alone. You carry it with the God who designed you for it. And that changes everything about the weight of it. Some of you need to practice letting go as much as you need to practice thinking positively. Because you have been holding on to things for so long that the holding on has become part of your identity. The bitterness, the grievance, the wound that you revisit so often, it has become a defining feature of who you are. And I'm not asking you to minimize what happened. I'm asking you to recognize that the person who hurt you is not worth the rent they're paying inside your mind. They moved on. Life moved on. And you are still in the same room with the same wound, pouring energy into a fire that is only burning you. Forgiveness is not a gift you give to the person who hurt you. Forgiveness is a gift you give to yourself. It is the act of releasing your own mind from the prison of the past so that you can be fully present in the future. God is trying to build for you. It is not weakness. It is the most powerful act of mental and spiritual self-preservation you can perform, and it is available to you right now, today, if you are willing to choose it. Choose it, because your mind needs that space. Your future needs that energy, and you deserve the freedom that comes on the other side of it. Now, I want to talk to you about the people around you, because your environment is either cultivating your mindset or contaminating it, and most people have never been honest with themselves about which one is happening. You cannot consistently spend time with people who think negatively and come out thinking positively. You cannot marinate in conversations filled with complaints, gossip, cynicism, and defeat, and then wonder why your mind gravitates toward the same. You are not above your environment. Nobody is. We are all being shaped constantly by the voices we allow to speak into us, the content we consume, the relationships we prioritize, the conversations we participate in. So I need to ask you a hard question. Who in your life is reinforcing your limitations? Who in your life responds to your dreams with doubt? Who in your life makes you feel smaller after every interaction? Who in your life is comfortable, even invested, in you staying exactly where you are? Because those relationships, no matter how long they've existed, no matter how much history you share, no matter how much love is there, those relationships are costing you more than you know. And at some point, you are going to have to make the hard, uncomfortable, sometimes heartbreaking decision to either change the dynamic or change the distance. I'm not telling you to be cold. I'm not telling you to be arrogant. I'm not telling you to cut everyone off and become an island. I'm telling you to be intentional about the voices that have access to your inner world, because your inner world is sacred. It is the incubator of your destiny. And anything or anyone with consistent access to that space is either helping you grow or helping you shrink. There is no neutral. Proverbs 13:20 says, "Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm." Walk with the wise, actively, intentionally, sometimes sacrificially choose to be in proximity to people who are thinking bigger, living bolder, and believing deeper than where you currently are. People who challenge you. People who call out what's in you rather than what's against you. People who believe in the God-given potential they see in you, even on the days when you can't see it in yourself. Those people exist. They may be hard to find. They may require you to go to different places, read different books, join different communities, show up differently. But they are worth finding because you become like who you spend time with, always, without exception. And let me be direct about one more thing. The content you consume is a conversation. When you spend hours watching content that celebrates mediocrity, that romanticizes suffering, that normalizes self-destruction, that fills your mind with anxiety and outrage and comparison, you are having a conversation with your subconscious mind. And the subconscious doesn't distinguish between fiction and reality. It absorbs it all and uses it to build your belief system about what life is, what you are, and what's possible. So be ferocious about what you let in. Guard your eye gate and your ear gate like they are the entrance to your future, because they are. Feed your mind the Word of God. Feed it testimonies of people who overcame. Feed it wisdom from those who have walked the path you're trying to walk. Feed it silence, beautiful, rare, countercultural silence, where you can actually hear the voice of God inside of you, instead of the noise of a world that profits from your distraction. Because in the silence is where clarity lives. In the silence is where God speaks. In the silence is where you reconnect with who you actually are, beneath all the noise and the fear and the performance and the pressure. And in that silence, you will hear something. You will hear a voice that has been there all along, underneath the negativity, underneath the doubt, underneath the pain. A quiet, steady, unshakable voice that says, I made you for more than this. I put something in you that the world needs. I have not given up on the vision I have for your life. I am not finished with you. Get up. Keep going. I am with you. That voice is real, and that voice is true. And that voice is the one you are always meant to live by. So hear me now as I bring this to a close. Not because there isn't more to say, there is always more, but because at some point the word has to stop and the walk has to begin. And that moment is now. That moment is this one. The moment after this sentence. You have been equipped today. You have been spoken to, challenged, reminded, awakened. You have been handed truth like a weapon, because that is exactly what it is. And now the only question is whether you will pick it up and use it. Whether you will walk out of this moment different from how you walked in. Whether you will let what you've heard today become what you live tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that. Because transformation is not an event, it is a direction. And you are choosing your direction right now. Every moment you choose to think in alignment with who God says you are moving in the direction of your destiny. Every moment you choose faith over fear, truth over lies, purpose over pain, you are building the life that has been waiting for you all along. You are not too late. You are not too broken. You are not too far gone. You are not the sum of your worst moments. You are not the ceiling others placed over your life. You are not the negative voice in your own head. You are more. You have always been more. And it is past time to live like it. Kill the negative thinking. Not tomorrow, not after you feel ready, not after the circumstances improve. Now, in this moment, with this breath, make the decision that changes everything. Your life is waiting. Your purpose is waiting. The world is waiting for what God placed inside of you. And heaven is leaning forward, watching to see if today is the day you finally believe it. Believe it. Now go, and do not look back.